This is a full story of how Prophet T.B. Joshua faked his own death. In the part 1, I saw comments from a lot of people who claim the stories were false. And I promise to make this part detailed with evidence that you overlook. And I'm also going to review my source. When the secret of T.B. Joshua got exposed, his church claimed that the people who exposed the secret were not known by the synagogue. But what if I show you evidence? Would you believe me? And if I show you the source of his power, would you open your mind enough to believe me? This documentary will be filled with the unbelievable, unspeakable, and the raw secret of the life of Prophet T.B. Joshua. Brace yourself. My name is Prince Theophilus, and this is Fame and Fallout. On the 12th of September 2014, something terrible happened. Inside the Synagogue Church of All Nations, a 6-story guest house stood tall. It was supposed to be a holy place, a shelter for pilgrims who came across the world to see the prophet, a sanctuary for those chasing miracles. But on that afternoon, the building shook. The concrete slowly broke down, and in a few seconds, the entire building collapsed. The skies were filled with dust. People were trapped under the broken walls. The cries of men and women was heard all over. What was meant to be a house of God turned into a graveyard of the faithful. More than 115 people died. 84 of them were from South Africa. Others were from Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Benin Republic, and other parts of the world. Some of these people were never identified. The families of the victims watched their loved ones die, and they didn't have the chance to even bury them. When this incident happened, T.B. Joshua ordered the gates to be locked. He did not want the world to see the fatalities. He was trying hard to hide the number of the dead people from the public, but they made sure they rescued few people as an evidence to the press. But according to his disciples, the main work started at midnight. Around 8:30 to 9 p.m., everyone was ordered to leave the premises, and that was when the disciples started taking the dead bodies.
They asked everybody to leave. That was when the real work was done.
They put all the dead bodies into their own church bus and drove away. Only God knows where they drove them to. They did everything to protect the image of the church and that of T.B. Joshua. T.B. Joshua was not present at the scene when all this were happening. He just gave orders. He made sure everything was captured on camera. And when his disciples returned to him with the tape, this is what he had to say.
He watched those tapes, and I can tell you, I never saw an atom of compassion.
The news of the building spread across Africa and all over the world. People that their family traveled to the synagogue were panicking. How could this happen to the house of God? That was a question on every lip. Television stations across the world showed the broken walls. Families stood outside the synagogue crying, begging, hoping for answers, but answers never came. Instead of answers, controversies arose. The Lagos state government said it was structural failure, no proper permit, no strong foundation. There was no legal approval for such a tall building. It was more like building a foundation meant for a bungalow and end up turning it into a 6-story building. What will happen will definitely be a disaster. But T.B. Joshua denied everything. He stood before his congregation and he pointed to the skies. He claimed that a mysterious flight flew over the building. He said the plane was flying around 4 times before the building eventually collapsed. According to T.B. Joshua, it was an attack. It was a spiritual warfare.
I was in the church. Before I knew it, I received a phone call again that there was a jet here, the same jet here at the church, hovering around the building, passing over the building 4 times, at a very low rate before the building collapsed.
Instead of taking the blame and responsibilities, he continued protecting his image. Even the president of Nigeria visited the place, and the president from other countries sympathized with him. The families of the dead wanted justice, but what they got was money. T.B. Joshua sent his disciples to give them a bag of cash, 750,000 naira for each Nigerian family, and 50,000 rands for each South African family, bag of rice, cartons of oil, small hampers to wipe away their grief. But here is the question: can rice replace a son? Can oil bring back a father? Can money rebuild a broken heart? Some families accepted because they had no choice. Others rejected, calling it an insult.
We asked, why are you giving us money? We were told it's a gift.
And when they refused to accept the money, according to them, T.B. Joshua threatened them.
When we refused taking the money, he started threatening us.
He told them that if they focus on what they lost, they might lose everything. Some of the victims went to court demanding answers, but T.B. Joshua himself was never jailed, never convicted, and never held accountable. He was too powerful for all that. This is a man who dined with the president. That collapse was more than a tragedy. It was the first time the world began to question the prophet. If this man truly hears from God, why did he not see the collapse coming? He saw visions for other people, other countries far away from Nigeria. He prophesied, and the prophecies came true. But how come the same God did not show him that his own building was going to collapse and his members were going to die? Some people call it a sacrifice. Some said it was a ritual. But because the first thing religion takes away from people is logical thinking, his followers believed him when he said it was a spiritual attack. This is a manipulation behind religion. After the collapse of the building, that was when some of his disciples decided to leave. Do you know that Prophet T.B. Joshua had a daughter outside wedlock? A child who would later become a victim instead of a doctor. Her name was Ajoke, and she was called the daughter of T.B. Joshua.
For as long as I can remember, I have been raised as T.B. Joshua's daughter.
But her life inside the church of the synagogue was torture.
I feel like, maybe I really don't deserve to be alive.
Ajoke grew up inside the compound. She was not like other children. She did not play outside. She never had freedom. She was placed among the disciples, obeying T.B. Joshua as if he was God. Ajoke was treated the same way other disciples were treated, but her own was even worse. She had no choice. She had no voice. She had no freedom. She could not talk to outsiders. She could not see friends or family. She could not leave the church compound. Her life was controlled. The other disciples saw how she was tortured and they pitied her, but none of them could save her because they were also in bondage. According to the story, everyone was told that Ajoke had a terrible spirit that needed to be driven out.
The message about Ajoke was that she had terrible evil spirits that needed to be driven out.
They would place her at the entrance and ask people to beat her however they liked. She would be locked up in rooms and tortured, beaten with electric cords. She suffered.
He said that people could beat her. Anyone in the female dormitory could just hit her.
T.B. Joshua hated her and he punished her for being born. Her existence was like the biggest threat to his reputation. Ajoke also confirmed everything T.B. Joshua was accused of. The sexual abuse, the torture, everything.
We're talking about years and years of abuse, consistent abuse that wasn't ending.
And when Ajoke could not take it anymore, she left the synagogue. She dropped the son named Joshua and went into hiding because she feared for her life. She feared that if she spoke out, she would be silenced. She told the world that the synagogue that looked like heaven was actually a prison. Some people call her liar, some call her betrayer, but others managed to believe her because her story matched exactly what other disciples said. The stories of pain, the stories of abuse, the stories of fear. Ajoke's life showed a darker side of T.B. Joshua, not just as a prophet, but as a father who failed his own child. This was a daughter who should have lived in love, but instead, she lived in fear, pain, and silence. However, the church later denied everything Ajoke said. They said she was an adopted child who was abandoned in the church, and T.B. Joshua took care of her. They said she was ungrateful and all that. But here is the question: why would everyone be lying against T.B. Joshua? Is he the only pastor in Nigeria? Do you remember a time a video of Jim Ike went viral when he was being delivered in the synagogue? Yes, this video.
Destroy him. Huh? I have to destroy him. His God has kept my life. I've done everything. I've done everything to destroy him.
Well, this is what Jim Ike said afterward.
So people thought that the whole synagogue thing was a stunt.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. That is part of why I withered. I didn't only, when Orthodox medicine failed us, I mean, from Luton, I took my whole family to India to be with my mom, and then she started getting better. This is the light of your life, Mom, for crying out loud. I'm not going to wager it for theatrics, for melodrama. And at some point, an offer was made from there to take him there by a senator friend of mine. He said, so I refused. So my sisters, when you're in a family, so they had a meeting plus my dad said, if anything happens to my wife is on your head. The pressure was too much. I said, okay, I want to go. If they will save her, I will go. So they told us put her in a hospital. I'm telling you this thing how it works. If they want to refuse it, let them come back. We put her in a hospital close there. And I went there. There was a presidential suite I was accorded. When I went, I'm like, okay, let's get started with this. And they said I must come down to the service. I said, I don't have to come down to the service. You people promised me, like, does God need me to, yes, I'm skeptical. Yes, I've shown people a great degree of cynicism, but do it and they make me a believer.
Yeah.
I will live in this church for 2 years if you heal my mom. So after a while, again, the meeting, like, you need to come down. I remember I was in there. My sister was behind me when this guy came. I was doing stuff. When he crossed me, I chuckled.
Which guy? The late?
The guy, no, not him.
Okay,
There's a guy that he didn't conduct it personally.
Right.
There's
one of the parties.
Yes, that I chuckled. My sister said, stop laughing. This thing is serious. I don't want them to see you laughing. Then he came back to me. My brother, I don't know what happened after that. This world is deep. There's a certain spirituality I've come to understand about this world that is way beyond us. What happened, I don't know. I saw the video. I said, that's not me, but that's me. My brother, you must understand that I am not an island of knowledge. I've done my part. But the one thing that is of a truth that you can take to the bank is that till I die, I'm the true son of Gladys. And I will never, ever waver her memory and her legacy by telling a lie. I've said it time and again, if everything I'm saying is not true, let somebody come out, show proof that you gave me. How much are you going to give me that I've not seen? To play with my mom's life? My mom was lying in a hospital in a coma. And then they're saying I'm playing theatrics somewhere. So what killed me was that they didn't touch her. He didn't touch her all through. He never saw her eye to eye.
Really?
Just after that drama, all they were fixated on was hate, was it dead. And I said, okay, I've suffered. I think my career has even ended.
He said he didn't know what happened to him. Behind those miracles, there are dark truths no one could ever explain. According to the disciples, not everyone was allowed into the miracle line.
The miracles he did, the whole thing is stage managed and faked.
If you had cancer or a sickness that could not heal fast, they push you aside. But if your sickness was not too serious, something that could heal very quickly, they bring you forward. These are the people you see on Emmanuel TV. Those were the ones that got healed. Some miracles were arranged, some were staged. According to the disciples, people were told how to act. Some came in on wheelchair even though they could walk. So when T.B. Joshua prayed, they stood up as if they have gotten their healing. It was manipulation that was easy because they told them that obedience is better than sacrifice. They brainwashed them with the scriptures. The only thing they needed was that moment they stood up. The rest doesn't matter. Every move was recorded. Every miracle was filmed. But not all clips were shown. Only the best ones, the dramatic ones, the ones that will shock the world. Those were the ones they showed to the world. The disciples said some of the medical reports were manipulated. Reports were adjusted. It was made to look like someone had a sickness and now the sickness was gone. That was the evidence shown on Emmanuel TV. The more miracles the world saw, the more people came in from Nigeria, from Africa, from Europe, from America. Pilgrims brought money. Donations were coming in. The church became an empire and T.B. Joshua became untouchable. But when the disciples left, they started to talk. Some of them spoke to BBC, some spoke to newspapers, and they revealed every secret. They said the plan was to make the world believe in T.B. Joshua. To the world, all they had seen were signs and wonder. But according to those that live inside, it was nothing but a show, a holy theater directed by the prophet himself, T.B. Joshua. One of the girls came back to publicly accuse him of rape, but she was disregarded.
What? Is it so urgent? You cannot confess? When you had sex with me?
She screamed and said T.B. Joshua had sex with her. That day, the security threatened her and even wanted to shoot her, and she had to run for her life. After all the disciples left, they wrote petition to the police. They did everything, but nothing happened. It was only the BBC African Eye that came to their rescue. Now, this is a secret nobody knows. Whenever any of the disciples leaves, he usually tells his Baba, his spiritualist, to curse them. In fact, to make sure they die.
T.B. Joshua said I should curse them. This Abisola picture, they cite it inside that tree.
According to the spiritualists, they will put their name inside a tree and cast a spell on them that their life will never be better except they come back to confess. So when you see whatever that is happening to these people in real life, it's not the punishment of God. It's something more spiritual, and it's not God. After the disciples left, they were threatened left and right. Some said gunmen came after them. Bisola said she was beaten severally by people that she did not know.
I was driving. They shot at the back of the vehicle. Bah, 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 bah.
On June 5th, 2021, the world woke up to a shocking news. Prophet T.B. Joshua was dead. They said he died at the age of 57 after preaching in the church. He went to rest and never woke up. But soon, the rumor started. Some people asked, how can a prophet who sees the future not see his own death? Others asked, why did he die just days before the BBC documentary was about to be released? It looked strange. It sounded suspicious. Some people believe he faked his own death, that he wanted to escape the shame. He wanted to avoid the scandals, and he wanted to leave the earth before the truth came out. On social media, some people claim that he's not dead. He only disappeared. Some even said his burial was strange. They believe a lot of things were hidden. They said that the coffin was not open. They said that they did everything to cover up for his death. But his audience, his congregation, showed something otherwise. They tried their best to show the coffin and to show him when he was in the coffin. They said he was buried in the synagogue, but we'll get back to that. Now, let's talk about the BBC African Eye documentary that exposed everything. When the documentary was released after his death, the church denied everything. They said the people that were interviewed in the documentary were not known by the Synagogue Church of All Nations. But let's ask ourselves these questions and carefully analyze this. The Synagogue Church denied knowing all the people that were interviewed at the BBC documentary. But aren't this evidence clear enough? Let's look at this. Look at this lady narrating the story. This was her when she was in the Synagogue Church of All Nations. How was this clip gotten if she never worked in a synagogue or with T.B. Joshua? Look at this lady called Jessica speaking at the interview.
It was Emmanuel TV that hooked me in.
Now, look at her when she was young and working with T.B. Joshua. This is Rachel when she was working with Emmanuel TV. Now, this is her narrating her story at the BBC interview. Now, see her again. Look at her closely. This was Bisola when she was young and working in the synagogue. Now, this is her narrating her story at the BBC. This is Paul Agomo when he was with T.B. Joshua. And this is him narrating the story at the BBC. This is the before and after of Aneka at the BBC interview. This is Chloe in the synagogue speaking at the BBC. Now, with all this evidence, do you believe in this story or not? Let me know in the comment section. Did T.B. Joshua really died or he faked his own death to avoid disgrace? No one knows for sure. The only thing we know is his death came at a very strange time. At a time when the world was beginning to know his secret. A time when the disciples were speaking out. A time when BBC documentary was about to be aired. How come he died at that particular time? That is the question. In life, he was worshipped. In death, he was feared. But his story is a story of a mystery. A man who rose to global fame. A man who built an empire of followers. A man who left behind more questions than answers. Now, I'll leave you to the question. Did T.B. Joshua really die or he escaped? Because this man was rich. Even if he disappeared, he can go and do plastic surgery and live in another country and enjoy his money. But I know one thing for sure. His church knows the truth. His wife knows the truth. But the only thing they can do is to protect the image of the church. Because if they agree to everything they said, the church will close. And they don't want the church to close because the church is a source of income to the family and the people that worship with him. That is what I believe. If you believe otherwise, let me know in the comment section. But this is not the entire story. In another video, I'm going to reveal the secret of T.B. Joshua's power. If you love stories like this, you might also like to watch The Dark Secrets of Clifford Orji, the man who killed so many people in Lagos. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the bell button so you don't miss other amazing stories like this one.